The whole purpose of marketing is to understand consumers. They want to engage them and they want to interfere with the way consumers act and think. In other words, marketeers want to be able to understand how and when consumers buy, and in order to understand that and to influence that, they need to first understand why consumers buy what they buy. In marketing, there are some important concepts that you need to understand in order to become a marketing guru. Well, first of all, in the first phase, you need to understand the marketing process. That is discovering the need, the want, the demand, or the problem that the consumer has in order for you to be able to come up with a product, a service, or the solution to his need to solve his problem. And you can watch that video to understand the marketing process in the info card right here or in the links down in the description. The second phase is to understand the marketplace and the consumer behavior, because you want to be able as a marketeer to come up with a strategy to influence his buying behavior and turn him into a customer. In this video, we're going to look at the entire consumer buying behavior. We're going to discover the factors that influence it, the types of buying behavior, and also the buying decision process. As consumers, we buy things every day, and this is also the main interest point of the marketeers. Well, their challenge comes when they try to understand us, because we differ so much in age, in income and education level and whole other aspects. Therefore, understanding these differences and being able to influence our buying behavior in order to turn us into customers from consumers became the main challenge for the marketeers. This video is the entire chapter review about the consumer buying behavior, and it is an at-length video. If you would like to watch shorter videos, I've created separated ones that you can watch in the info cards right here, or also in the links down in the description. You will find shorter videos about the aspects of the buying behavior of the consumer. So the first aspect to understand the buying consumer behavior is to speak the same language. So you will need to learn some key important terms. Consumer buyer behavior is the buying behavior of the final consumers, and those are individuals and households that buy goods and services for personal consumption. Combined, all final consumers make up the consumer market. Therefore, we define consumer market as all the individuals and households that buy or acquire goods and services for personal consumption. The most important questions about consumers' behavior that marketeers try to answer are where they buy, how much they buy, when they buy, and why they buy. If marketeers would have the answers to these questions, they would become capable to create the best marketing strategy and being able to influence us as consumers to buy whatever product or service they come out with. And this is their end goal, being able to understand us so they can influence us in our buying behavior to buy their product. The simplest model to understand the buyer behavior is the stimulus response model, where you have the environment, the black box, and the buyer response of the consumer. According to this model, marketing and other forces enter the consumer's mind and subconscious mind and produce certain responses. Marketeers name this the black box of the consumers. Once in the black box, these inputs produce observable buyer responses such as brand choices, purchase location and timing, and brand engagement and relationship behavior. Because most of the times not even the consumers themselves understand their reasons for buying something, the marketeers understood that they need to answer the following question: how do consumers respond to various marketing efforts the company might use? Therefore, the marketing stimuli starts with the 4 P's: product, price, place, and promotion. If you'd like to learn more about the 4 P's of marketing and about the marketing mix, I've created separated videos about those topics, and you can watch them in the info cards right here or find the links down in the description below. Other stimuli are the major forces and events that influence the environment of the buyers, such as economy, technology, socials, and culture. All these inputs enter the buyer's black box, where they are turned into a set of responses. These responses are called buyer's attitudes and preferences, brand engagements and relationships, and when he or she buys, when, where, and how much. Therefore, to influence the buyer behavior of the consumers, there are 2 steps. The first one is influencing the perception and reaction to the stimuli. The second one is to understand the buyer decision process that influences his behavior. Although we might not know or we might not be conscious of these, We as consumers are influenced every day in our buying decision process. There are many aspects and many factors from cultural to social aspects that influence us in buying what we buy, and we will discuss each individual factor. This figure shows the factors that marketeers cannot control but must take into account when they try to answer the questions why do consumers buy what they buy. There are 4 types of factors that we can also see right here. We talk about the cultural, social, personal and psychological actors and factors that influence the buying decision process and the buying behavior of the consumers. First of all, we will have an overview of all these factors, and after that we will discuss each one individually. The factors that influence the consumer behavior are cultural factors including culture, subculture and social class. Social factors including groups, social networks, family, social roles and status. Personal factors including age and life cycle stage, occupation, economic situation, lifestyle, personality and self-concept. And there are also psychological factors including motivation, perception, learning and beliefs and attitudes. Each one of these factors enter what we call the consumer's black box, so they influence the buying decision behavior. This means that they influence how we buy and what we buy, and also when and why we buy what we buy. The first category we will look at are the cultural factors. Culture is the set of basic values, perceptions, wants and behaviors learned by a member of society from family or other important institutions. Every group or society has a culture. Cultural influences that affect the buying behavior from county to county. Marketeers are always trying to spot cultural shifts to discover new products that might be wanted. Subculture is a group of people with shared value systems based on common life experiences and situations. Subcultures include nationalities, religions, racial groups, and geographic regions. Examples of 3 important subculture groups are Hispanic Americans, African Americans, and Asian American consumers. First, let's talk about the Hispanic American consumers. There are more than 55 million, having a total annual buying power of more than $1.5 trillion. By 2060, it is expected that Hispanic population will surge more than 128 million. African American consumers, there are more than 42 million consumers, having a total annual buying power of more than $1 trillion. About the Asian American consumers, we know that they number more than 18 million, with an annual buying power of more than $1 billion. There are diverse groups including Chinese Americans, Filipinos, Asian Indians, Vietnamese, Korean American and Japanese Americans. Finally, the social class is relatively permanent and ordered divisions in a society whose members share similar values, interests and behavior. It is measured as a combination of occupation, income, education, wealth and other variables. Marketeers are interested in social class because people within a given class tend to exhibit similar buying behavior. In this figure you can see the social classes split into 4 categories. You can pause the video and look at each one individually. So far we looked at the cultural factors that influence the buying behavior of the consumers. Secondly, we'll look at the social factors. Social factors are represented by the consumer groups, social networks, family and social roles and status. Groups are important because they influence a person's behavior. That direct influence is called membership behavior. Reference groups is the contrast, when indirect points of comparison from a person's attitudes or behavior. It is important to remember that groups and reference groups can create pressure to conform that may affect a person but can also have a powerful impact on consumer behavior through word-of-mouth influence, also called buzz marketing. The online social networks are online communities where people socialize or exchange information and opinions. They range from blogs and message boards to social media sites and virtual worlds. Most brands have built a comprehensive social media presence. Family members can strongly influence buyer behavior because the family is the most important consumer buying organization in a society. At the moment, researchers try to understand the roles and influence of the husband, wife and children on the purchase of the different products and services. Finally, regarding the roles and status, a person belongs to many groups: family, clubs, organizations and online communities. People usually choose products appropriate to their roles and status. The third category of factors that influence the buying behavior of the consumers are the personal factors. Personal factors refer to personal characteristics such as the buyer's age and life cycle stage, occupation, economic situation, lifestyle, and personality and self-concept. The age and life cycle stage refers to the changes in goods and services people do in buying behavior over their lifetime. The relevant life stages result from demographics and life-changing events such as marriage, having children, purchasing a home, divorce, changes in income or retirement. The classification considers factors such as age, education, income, occupation, family composition, ethnicity, housing, lifestyle, and free time activities. The occupation is important because the marketeers try to identify the occupational groups that have an above average interest in their products and services. The economic situation is important because marketeers watch trends in spending, personal income, savings, and interest rates. The lifestyle involves measuring consumers' major AEO's dimensions, and those are activities such as work, hobbies, shopping, sport and social events, interests, food, fashion, family or recreation, and opinions about themselves, about the social issues, or about businesses and products. The personality and self-concept refers to the unique psychological characteristics that distinguish a person or group. One researcher has identified 5 brand personality traits. Sincerity, down-to-earth, honest, wholesome and cheerful. Excitement, daring, spirited, imaginative and up-to-date. Competence, reliable, intelligence and successful. Sophistication, glamorous, upper class and charming. And ruggedness, outdoorsy and tough. The last important category of factors that influence the buying behavior of the consumers are the psychological factors. There are 4 important actors when we talk about the psychological factors, and those are the motivation, perception, learning, and beliefs and attitudes. Let's look at each one individually. The motivation is a need that is sufficiently pressing to direct the person to seek satisfaction of the need. Sigmund Freud assumed that people are largely unconscious about the real psychological forces shaping their behavior. His theory suggests that not even the person fully understands his subconscious decisions. The other theory is formulated by Abraham Maslow. This figure is Maslow's answer to human needs, and they are arranged in a hierarchy from the most pressing at the bottom to the least pressing at the top. They include psychological needs, safety needs, social needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization needs. Perception is the process by which people select, organize, and interpret information to form a meaningful picture of the world. There is selective distortion that describes the tendency of people to interpret information in a way that will support what they already believe, and there is selective retention, meaning that consumers are likely to remember good points made about a brand they favor and forget good points about competing brands. Learning refers to the changes in an individual's behavior arising from experience, and beliefs and attitudes refer to. Beliefs refer to a descriptive thought that a person holds about something. Attitudes refer to a person's consistently favorable or unfavorable evaluations, feelings and tendencies toward an object or an idea. These have been all the important factors that influence the buying behavior of the consumer. As a sum up, there are 4 important factors. We talk about the cultural factors, about the social factors, personal and psychological factors, and all these actors influence the consumer, so this means that it enters their subconscious in the black box, and from the black box, from the subconscious, they influence the buyer's response and their buying process and buying behavior. Now that you understand all the factors that influence the buying behavior, we will start looking at the buying decision behavior. Now more than ever, we as consumers experience the biggest diversity in brands, products and services we can choose from, although sometimes they do the same thing. As consumers, sometimes we make simple purchases. We buy things out of routine or because we have habits in buying certain products, but there are also some more complex buying behaviors. So there are complex products that we buy, such as cars. When we talk about simple and complex buying decisions, to understand it better, let's look at an example. If you want to buy a cup of coffee from brand A, well, your involvement is minimum because you don't need to research and find out information about brand A's cup of coffee, about brand B's cup of coffee, right? So your involvement is minimum because the differences between the brands are minimum. But also, if you'd like to buy a car, where that involvement is way higher because you would need to find information and research the cars from brand A and B to find out the differences between the brands and between the cars, and also you would need to find a lot of information about how the cars work so you can actually understand the differences. This is the reason why we look at this figure. There are 4 types of consumer buying behavior based on the degree of buyer involvement and the degree of differences between brands. The 4 types are evaluated considering the differences between brands, and if there are few or significant ones, and considering the involvement of the consumer, meaning the research he needs to do to be able to take a decision. The first type of buying behavior is the complex one. The definition is the consumer's buying behavior in situations characterized by high consumer involvement in a purchase or significant perceived differences among brands. It usually happens when the product is expensive, risky, purchased infrequently, and highly self-expressive, and there are significant differences among brands. The complex buying behavior is usually encountered when the consumer needs to learn something before being able to purchase the product. So we talk about that many times the consumer needs to find information about how the product works, for example, or he needs to read a lot of reviews or watch a lot of review videos about that product, and maybe also to find the beliefs and attitudes from friends. All these aspects influence the buying decision of the consumer, and only then he can look at the differences between the brand's features. Think about buying a car. When you want to buy a car, you want to look at the differences between the models, the features, the accessories, or maybe about the expected price. And you need to look at all the competitors to compare all their offers, the prices, and the beliefs you might also have about the brand. Well, you take all these factors into consideration, right, when you buy an expensive purchase. And because there are significant differences between the brands and also high involvement from the consumer side, we call that the complex buying behavior. The second type of buying behavior is called the dissonance-reducing buying behavior. Consumer buying behavior in situations characterized by high involvement but few perceived differences among brands. It usually occurs when consumers are highly involved with an expensive, infrequent, or risky purchase but see little differences among brands. After the purchase, consumers might experience post-purchase dissonance. This means after-sale discomfort when they notice certain differences or disadvantages of the purchased products. This kind of dissonance appears when we buy something new, we are very excited about it, but after a time we find out opinions from friends, their beliefs, their attitudes, and because our excitement about the product that we just bought is not that high anymore, we also start noticing the disadvantages of the thing we just purchased. To counter dissonance, the marketeers' after-sale communication should provide evidence and support to help customers feel good about their brand choice. To better understand the differences between these two categories of behavior, the complex buying behavior and the dissonance-reducing behavior, think about it this way. Both of the behaviors require a lot of involvement. So they require high involvement of the consumers, whatever the reason is. Maybe because it's a high-end product, or maybe the product is expensive, or maybe because the product itself is hard to use and complex in using, so you need to understand how it works. Both of them, high involvement of the consumer. The main important difference between these two types of behavior is the uniqueness of the product. Think about the same product from brand A and the same product from brand B. If brand B product's uniqueness is very high, so that product has a lot of new features and is very unique comparing to brand A's, well, that is complex buying behavior because there are significant differences of the product compared to the other brands. And if there are, well, almost no significant differences at all, that is dissonance reducing, because think about it, you have the behavior of the after sale. If your product is almost the same as any other from the competitors, you want to know, you want to feel that the decision you made is the best. And if your friends or if you see other products that you didn't buy being better than what you bought, you will feel that feeling when you are not really satisfied with your decision, and that is what the marketeers try to counter through their after-sale process. The third type is the habitual buying behavior, consumer buying behavior in situations characterized by low consumer involvement and few significant perceived brand differences. This kind of behavior appears when the differences between the brands are almost insignificant and also when the involvement of the consumer is very low. The buying process involves brand beliefs formed by passive learning followed by purchase behavior. Marketeers often use price and sales promotions to promote something, and they can add product features or enhancements to differentiate the brands from the rest of the pack and rise involvement. The fourth type of buying behavior is variety seeking. Consumer buying behavior in situations characterized by low consumer involvement but significant perceived brand differences. In these kind of situations, consumers often do brand switching. To better understand the difference between habitual buying behavior and variety-seeking behavior, think about the following example. You want to buy cookies. Well, to buy cookies, you don't need a high involvement, right? So the involvement of the consumer is very low. You don't need to research about the product, you don't need information about the product. The main important aspect is how different or how unique the product you buy is. If there is no difference between the brands, that is habitual buying. If there are significant differences between the brands, that's variety seeking, because the more different something is, the bigger the variety is. So that is variety buying behavior. In variety seeking buying behavior, the market leader will try to encourage habitual buying behavior by dominating the shelf space, keeping shelves fully stocked and running frequent advertising. You can imagine that the competitor companies try to encourage the variety-seeking behavior for a reason, because when people buy something on a habit, so they don't really think about the product they buy, they don't really think about the differences, they want to encourage variety seeking. So they want to come up with discounts, they want to come up with coupons, or literally free samples or anything that would make you, the consumer, try something new to buy their product. And basically, after a company established variety-seeking behavior, they will try to go and establish the habitual buying behavior for its customers. And why? Because you tried the new product, right? That was variety-seeking. You tried the variety because they gave you a coupon or a free sample or whatever. That was variety-seeking. After you bought that, they want to turn you into a fidel customer to keep buying. So they will try to make it a habit to buy their brand, and they do that by fully stocking the shelves, having the biggest and the most seen space on the shelves, everything that you see in a store basically. This was everything you need to know about the four important or the four major buying decision behavior. Just as a sum up, these factors are dependent on two main actors that influence the entire matrix. That is the involvement of the consumer, so the amount of research or the amount of information, or basically the amount of time that the consumer needs to invest in, and also the differences between the brands when we talk about a product. When the consumer actually buys something, he or she turns into a customer, because now he bought the product. Well, before that, just before the decision to take place, there is an entire buying process that takes place in the mind, so in the black box of the consumer, and the first step of that is to understand and to recognize a need and how you feel after you purchased something. This figure shows that the buyer decision process consists of 5 stages: need recognition, information search, evaluation of alternatives, the purchase decision, and post-purchase behavior. So what this means is that after long studies, marketeers actually discovered that no matter how long we take before buying something, maybe some of us buy very quick, some of us need a longer time, we all go through the same buying decision process. So let's start by looking at step number 1, which is recognizing the need of the customer. Well, before that, actually, you need to learn about the needs, wants, and demands of the customers, the differences between those. If you want to do that, you can see the video right here in the info card, and there is also a link down in the description for a separated video that I've created about the needs, wants, and demands of the customers. The need recognition is the first stage of the buyer decision process in which the consumer recognizes a problem or a need. The need can be triggered by internal or external stimuli. The internal stimuli is when one of the person's normal needs, for example hunger, rises to a high level enough to become a drive. The external stimuli is when something external, such as advertising or a discussion, determines a need to become so important that a person starts considering it. Basically, the first step for the consumer from a consumer perspective is to realize that you have a need that is so important that you need to satisfy it, or that you have a problem that is so important for you that you need to solve it. In the information search stage, the buyer decision process leads to a consumer to a step where he is motivated to search for more information. If the consumer's drive is strong and a product satisfying that need is near at hand, he or she is likely to buy it. If not, the consumer may undertake an informational search. Basically, what that means is that in the first stage, the consumer realized he had a need or a problem that he needs to solve or a need to satisfy. Well, in the second stage, he will look at what he knows. If he already knows a solution to his problem, or if he knows a product that will satisfy his needs, he will take that first. But if he doesn't know that, he will go through an informational search. So he will look for a product to satisfy that need, he will look for a solution to his problem. There are several sources where consumers can obtain information from. The personal sources, such as family, friends, neighbors, or acquaintances. Commercial sources, such as advertising, salespeople, dealer or manufacturer web and mobile sites, displays and packaging. Public sources, mass media, consumer rating organizations, social media or online searches, and experimental sources such as examining and using the product. After the consumer has done his research, now comes the third step of the buying behavior decision process, namely the alternatives evaluation. In alternative evaluation, the consumer uses information to evaluate alternative brands in the choice set. Depending on each individual person, consumers might or might not have a close, careful calculation before buying something, or a logical thinking before buying something. And you may wonder why? Well, because some persons have some attributes that they need to consider before buying something, such as the style, such as the price, such as the performance, and they will put a high degree of importance on these attributes, but it differs in the order they want them. The purchase decision is the fourth step of the buying process, where the buyer makes a decision regarding which brand to purchase. There are two important factors that can come between the purchase intention and purchase decision. The first factor is the attitudes of others, and the second one is the unexpected situational factors. In the first category of factors, we mean about family, friends, or well, persons around you that will share their opinions about the product you want to buy and might therefore put thoughts in your head. And through external factors, we think about the income, or maybe the price difference, or maybe the availability of the product. And finally, after all this time, after realizing you have a need, after doing an information search to solve that problem, after that you've evaluated all the alternatives, here comes the last process step, the last step of the process. You actually buy something, you turn into a customer, and now you want to have a post-customer or post-purchase behavior. This is the stage of the buyer decision process in which consumers take further actions after purchase based on their satisfaction or dissatisfaction. The difference between being satisfied or dissatisfied by a product comes from the difference between the consumer's expectations and the product's perceived performance. So basically, you will be satisfied or not depending on what you expected from that product to do and what it actually does. Of course, as a marketeer or as a company that just sold a product, you want your customers to be delighted by their experience so they can be very satisfied by their buying decision, because contrary, they will go into cognitive dissonance, and word of mouth can create a lot of negative ads for your company, for your product, and basically they will share their negative experience with their friends and everybody nearby, and that will have an influence on your company. As a summary, when making a purchase, the buyer goes through a situation process consisting of need recognition, information search, evaluation of alternatives, purchase decision, and post-purchase behavior. During the need recognition, the consumer recognizes a problem or need that could be satisfied by a product or service in the market. In the information stage, consumer proceeds to alternative evaluation, during which the information is used to evaluate brands in the choice set. From that point, the consumer makes a purchase decision, actually buying the product, and finally, in the final stage, the consumer takes action based on satisfaction or dissatisfaction. That is called post-purchase behavior. This was everything for this video. I hope it helped you to understand the buyer behavior and the buying decision process. Just as a short up, remember that the buyer behavior is split into the factors that influence it. It is split in buying behavior, the factors that influence the behavior, all the types of buying behavior, and finally the decision process. If you want to better understand one part of the video, I've split this at-length video, the chapter review, into smaller videos on each individual topic. You can find these videos in the link down in the description or in the info cards right here. One more thing, if you are a fresh entrepreneur or you want to open or you just opened your very first company, you might want to have a manual for creating your business plan. And more than a business plan, you might want to create a communication strategy and a marketing strategy for your company. Well, in this case, I've already helped you. In the links down below in the description, you will find a link with a manual on how to create your personalized business plan that can be applied on any type of company, for any type of product and any type of service. And only by filling in that manual and completing the notebook, you will create a personal marketing strategy, a personal communication strategy, and a business plan for your company. Also, if you may want to thank me for this video, you might buy me a coffee. I run on a lot of coffee to create these videos, to do the informational search for the video, to film it, to edit it. If you want to do that, there is a link down in the description below. And also, as a new feature, you can now join my channel, you can subscribe to my channel. And it of course helps that if you subscribe to the channel, if you like the video, or if you comment in the comment section down below, because you know how YouTube algorithm is nowadays. This was everything for this video. Check the other ones on my channel and I will see you at the next one.